Anyone that's been to a sporting event, the atmosphere before a game, I think Game Time Decisions has that same exact atmosphere. This is our arena. This is what we do. There is going to be an energy to Game Time Decisions that you will feel night in and night out. The excitement you get when you lock your bets in, when you're figuring out what you want to do, we can zone in on the biggest games each night. I want this to be the place that people come to before the games start so they feel as ready as possible to lock in their cards. We are going to hit every single one of those markets that you need to know about. We're going to go through every single thing, and I've got a great team behind me that's going to help me get the job done. There is not going to be a better place, I promise you, than Game Time Decisions to get that new information, react to it, and be able to then bet accordingly. We will have everything at our disposal, and we will use that to our advantage. I'm Kevin Walsh. Tune into Game Time Decisions from 6 to 8 p.m. Eastern on SportsGrid.
It's a new era in CFB to start off this year, put on full display.
My take on this game is simple. I know some people will be upset about it. Good riddance to the Pac-12.
Can you do it in terms of the week to week to week?
I don't see a pathway for this team to miss the college football playoffs.
We want to make sure you have those best bets in the entirety of our betting cards. That was thinking, but he had that program was already going there.
Only on SportsGrid.
The sharpest football contest show in the land, the Las Vegas Football Contest Show, focuses on Circa Sports Million, Circa Survivor, and the Westgate Super Contest, handicapping the games and releasing our contest picks every week of the season. With two former Super Contest winners, Brady Cannon and James Salinas, a former NFL player, Mike Pritchard, and over $1 million in contest prize money won combined, the Las Vegas Football Contest Show will have you prepared this season like...
Welcome to hour number 2, live right here on this Tuesday on the early line on SportsGrid. He is Joe. I am Ben. We go around Major League Baseball now to start off this second hour as we have less than 2 weeks remaining in this MLB regular season. Not by this weekend, but next weekend. That's the end of the regular year. The long 162, the daily grind in Major League Baseball comes to a close with October and postseason baseball on the horizon. And, Joe, now that we have an expanded postseason in MLB, there is so much to get to and so many compelling races here down the stretch. A shorter slate on a Monday, but with the games that featured a team in playoff contention incredibly significant. We'll dive through here to start off this second hour and look at the playoff standings where they stand right now.
Yeah, I'm excited, Ben. I mean, this is what Manfred and Major League Baseball wanted. Extra postseason availability for a team and games to mean something in the final 2 weeks of the regular season. And we certainly have plenty of those going on right now.
Yes, we certainly do. Let's start in Atlanta, the fourth and final game of a series, the extended weekend set between the Braves and the Dodgers. Atlanta won the first two. The Dodgers respond with a 9-2 victory in Game 3 on Sunday night. The Dodgers as a slight road favorite with Yoshi Yamamoto making his second start since his return from the middle of June up against Max Fried. And Yamamoto was great last night, and the Dodgers take advantage. They win the series finale to split the four-game set 9-0 last night. They scored 7 runs, did the Dodgers, in the 9th inning of Game 3. They scored 6 in the 7th inning last night, capped off by a 3-run home run from Freddie Freeman against his former team. Joe, the Dodgers entered the final 2 games of this set against Atlanta, dropping 6 of their last 9. They win the final 2 here against the Braves to split the set.
Yeah, it's kind of do or die. It looks like the Dodgers, Ben, at this point are trying desperately to get healthy. Yamamoto, it was great to see him out there, and because they're going to need his arm heading into the postseason. And if you're Atlanta, the wheels have fallen off. How do you go and score no runs in a game when now you're trailing, you're on the outside looking in, and you can't muster up and scrape a couple of runs off over here, it is not looking good for Atlanta at all.
No, it is not. 4 hits last night allowed in total by the Dodgers staff. Yamamoto, 4 innings of work, only 4 hits, striking out 3, allowing 2 walks. Of course, the Braves were blanked the entirety of the game. Yamamoto, Joe, in his 2 starts since his return from the middle of June, has gone only 4 innings, but has not allowed a single earned run. A run has been scored while he has been on the bump. But a really good sign for the Dodgers, who we learned over the weekend that Tyler Glasnow, the ace acquired during the offseason, more than likely not going to return even in the postseason for LA. And to your point about Atlanta, they've lost a couple of series. They split this one against the Dodgers, but a 4-game set a couple of weekends back against the Phils, they lost that one. So now, so far in September, Atlanta just an even 500 at 7-7. The Dodgers trying to keep pace with the Phillies. They entered last night 2 games behind Philadelphia for what would be the best record in the number 1 overall seed in the National League. Now only a game deficit as the Phils lose their opener this week in Milwaukee against the Brewers. 2 teams very comfortably in that top spot in their divisions. The Phils in the National League East, the Brewers in the National League Central. Virtual pick'em in the state of Wisconsin, and Milwaukee gets off to a great start with the 6-2 victory.
Kind of the microcosm of what their entire season has been, right, Ben? They got off to a great start early on, and everyone thought it might be a fluke. I mean, no more Corden Burns. Woodruff was hurt. Devin Williams was hurt start of the year, and yet the Brewers just kept hitting the ball and winning games.
Yep.
And just like that, here they are at the end of the season doing exactly the same thing.
The Phils had their opportunities. They had 11 hits. They had more base knocks than the Brewers last night, but just a dreadful 1 for 9 with runners in scoring position. So Milwaukee wins this opener. They're 87-63. Yep. They're 3 games back of the Phils, who are 90-60. So the Dodgers a game behind Philadelphia. Those are the teams at the top. The divisional races are all done for the most part in the National League. They have not been clinched necessarily at the moment, but soon to be to those magic numbers. The Brewers have won 5 of their last 7, just an even 500 in September. Joe, the Phils were on a slide following the All-Star break, 12-20 up until August 28th. From that span, including the loss yesterday, they are 16-6. Philadelphia now 10-4 in the month of September, despite the loss in Milwaukee, playing better baseball. Now let's go to the top team in the National League wild card chase. That's the San Diego Padres. Yesterday at home against the Houston Astros. Both teams coming into this series after a weekend sweep. San Diego over San Francisco, Houston over the Los Angeles Angels of Anaheim. And San Diego, another promising time for a team that will factor into the playoff race in the National League. Yu Darvish, pretty darn good yesterday against the Stros. The Padres get the win 3-1 over Houston. Yu Darvish in his 3rd start since returning from the end of May. 6 innings of work, shutout baseball, 3 hits, 3 strikeouts in 79 pitches. He had thrown only 63 pitches in each of his first 2 starts since returning here in the month of September. A really good outing for Yu and crew as San Diego gets a win.
Yeah, and, stop me if you've heard this before. Rookie Jackson Merrill with a home run, Profar with a home run, and Louis Ariz there ends up striking out for the first time in 141 plate appearances, which is something you don't see very often in this day and age, a la Tony Gwynn back in the day in a Padres uniform. But another big win for the Padres. If you can have a healthy Darvish heading into the postseason, going to be interesting, Ben, with this team.
San Diego has won all 3 of the starts that Yu has made here in the month of September. He only won 2 2/3 in his opening start, 5 in his last, and now 6 with the most pitches thrown. And to your point on Luis Arias, yes, it was his first strikeout at the dish since August 10th, ending a streak of 141 consecutive plate appearances without a strikeout. It was the longest such streak in MLB in the last 2 decades. Jackson Merrill, a home run, and he remains the National League Rookie of the Year favorite at a minus 550 price because he is contributing in significant games that will determine the postseason for San Diego. Not the case for Paul Skeens and the Pirates. There was a time around the All-Star break we thought Skeens already had this award wrapped up. They were etching his name into the hardware. That is not the case anymore. Not because Skeens has been bad, but the Pirates have been bad. Skeens did record the loss yesterday, as on the other side, the Cardinals blanked the Buccos. Skeens only allowed one earned run, Joe, just 4 hits in 6 innings of work, striking out 7. It was a Nolan Arenado RBI in the 4th. That was the only run Skeens allowed. The Cardinals win 4-zip in Skeens Day number 21, XXI in the history of MLB, spoiled in St. Louis.
Yeah, it's unfortunate, but I got a news for you. I mean, somebody that's been outshadowed all year long, and Skeens pretty much outshadowed a ton every other young pitcher, but Palante was pretty darn good, Ben, in that game last night, and he's been pretty darn good for the Cardinals all year long. So another young arm that looks really, really promising for the Cardinals moving forward.
Yeah, certainly the case for St. Louis. Let's look at the NL Rookie of the Year contenders. Jackson Merrill, 24 home runs, 86 RBIs, minus 550. Despite the loss for Skeens, just his 3rd of the season, his ERA dropped from a 2.10 number down to 2.07. So now we'll look at where the playoff standings are around the major leagues. Up next on the early line.
Anyone that's been to a sporting event, the atmosphere before a game, I think Game Time Decisions has that same exact atmosphere. This is our arena. This is what we do. There is going to be an energy to Game Time Decisions that you will feel night in and night out. The excitement you get when you lock your bets in, when you're figuring out what you want to do, we can zone in on the biggest games each night. I want this to be the place that people come to before the game starts so they feel as ready as possible to lock in their cards. We are going to hit every single one of those markets that you need to know about. We're going to go through every single thing, and I've got a great team behind me that's going to help me get the job done. There is not going to be a better place, I promise you, than Game Time Decisions to get that new information, react to it, and be able to then bet accordingly. We will have everything at our disposal, and we will use that to our advantage. I'm Kevin Walsh. Tune into Game Time Decisions from 6 to 8 p.m. Eastern on SportsGrid.
It's a new era in CFB to start off this year, put on full display.
My take on this game is simple. I know some people will be upset about it. Good riddance to the Pac-12.
Can you do it in terms of the week to week to week?
I don't see a pathway for this team to miss the college football playoffs.
We want to make sure you have those best bets in the entirety of our betting cards. That was thinking! But he had that program was already going there!
Only on SportsGrid.
The sharpest football contest show in the land, the Las Vegas Football Contest Show, focuses on Circa Sports Million, Circa Survivor, and the Westgate Super Contest, handicapping the games and releasing our contest picks every week of the season. With 2 former Super Contest winners, Brady Cannon and James Salinas, a former NFL player, Mike Pritchard, and over $1 million in contest prize money won combined, the Las Vegas Football Contest Show will have you prepared this season like none other.
Let's get to the National League playoff picture. Less than 2 weeks remain in this MLB regular season. We're nearing only 10 games left over an area of 162 around MLB this year. Again, as we look at the divisional races, there is not much at stake. The Dodgers are going to win the National League West for the 11th time in the last 12 years. They have a 3.5 game lead over San Diego. That's the closest one. But when you look at division prices on the FanDuel Sportsbook, only 2 remain. None in the National League. It's just the AL East in the AL Central. National League East, we're going to have a new divisional champ for the first time in 7 seasons. The Braves have won 6 straight. The Phillies an 8-game lead over the Mets right now. And the Brewers maintain a double-digit advantage in the National League Central, 10 games up over the Chicago Cubs. So that's kind of taken care of. The question, Joe, with the division leaders is the order of those 3. Will it be Philadelphia 1, LA 2, Milwaukee 3? Might we see a change in these final 2 weeks?
Yeah, and you could very well, and it actually means a little something, right? Because of the new structure with the playoffs and the extra team ban, we got buys are involved this year, so it's actually not just get in it and win it. We don't care. Heck, if you can get that number 1 locked up, man, you get that number 1 locked up. It gives you all the advantage with rotations and everything else moving forward.
It is a really interesting debate, Joe. If you remember the debate last year in the MLB postseason, as we saw wild card teams in both leagues face off in a World Series. The Rangers, who knocked off the top overall seed in the AL, Baltimore in the division round. The D-backs, of course, catching fire at the right time to play in the World Series. It was the rest versus rust, age-old debate. Was earning those top 2 seeds in the opening round bye past the wild card round into the division series actually a benefit? We'll have those same conversations, I am sure, as we get to this October and this MLB postseason. Here's a really intriguing and frankly wrong market discrepancy on the FanDuel Sportsbook. The Dodgers are the favorites right now to have the best record in all of the bigs at minus 150. The Phils have the second best price at plus 110. But Philadelphia, with the 1-game advantage for the best record currently in the National League, is a minus 145 favorite to be that NL number 1 overall seed. There is no way the Dodgers could have the best record in Philadelphia, the best seed, unless they would pay you out in the dead heat rules applying, because Philly does have the advantage in the season series over LA, and thus the tiebreaker if they ended up with the same record. That's an interesting odds distinction on FanDuel.
Yeah, it's a very interesting. And what does it say about what we are thinking about this Dodgers team, what we thought about them, where they are currently right now, what the market still thinks is going to happen here? I mean, as far as I'm concerned, the team that I trust the most of those 3, Ben, as crazy as this is the Milwaukee Brewers, because I think they've been the most consistent that we can trust here to do it. But the way the schedule is lining up here, it's probably, if the Phillies handle their business, the Phillies are going to be your number 1 seed. But can you say that with confidence that they'll go ahead and just run the table and handle it? I can't, not with the way they've been playing since the All-Star break.
Of course, Philadelphia, who has made the NLCS each of the past 2 years, but has done so from the wild card category. Atlanta has won the National League East for 6 consecutive seasons. Philly was really bad up until August 23rd, 12-20 since that All-Star break in Arlington. Since that point, though, better baseball, 16-6, despite the loss yesterday in Milwaukee. So, Joe, Philly's going to win the National League East for the first time in 7 seasons. The Braves not going to win the division crown for the first time, snapping a 6-season streak, and might miss out on the postseason. Here's where it gets fun. San Diego, 3.5 games up over New York, 2.5 in front of Arizona for that top wild card spot. The D-backs just a game in front of the New York Mets. We thought San Diego and Arizona were comfortably going to be those top 2 seeds. We shall see, as both teams have cooled off since their torrid starts after the All-Star break. The Mets walk it off yesterday against the Nationals at home in 10 innings, courtesy of Starling Marte, the pinch hit RBI winner for New York. The Braves get blanked, losing 9-zip in the 4th and final game of their extended weekend set against the LA Dodgers. So here we are, entering the final 2 weeks of this MLB season, and the Braves trail the Mets for the 3rd and final National League wild card position by a full game.
Yeah, and I listen, I've been saying it for weeks now that the Braves are going to be on the outside looking in for the first time since, 2017, since they've last missed the postseason. And rightfully so. I mean, quite honestly, how many more injuries? There's only so much you can do here, Ben. I mean, and again, you see the bats have been an issue all year long. A lot of guys underperforming in that lineup. The stack, all the injuries to the rotation and everyone else there. And it's just too much to overcome. And quite honestly, it should be, because the Mets have been playing the best baseball since around middle of July right through here.
Sure.
They deserve to be where they are. And I would much rather have the Mets in the postseason than the current, the way it's rostered right now with this Braves team, who in all likelihood would get bounced right away anyway.
So the Atlanta Braves are a minus 170 favorite to see the postseason. The New York Mets are a minus 168 favorite to see the postseason. And the Arizona Diamondbacks are minus 620. Not all of those teams can be a minus money favorite to earn a playoff berth, because San Diego doesn't even have a price listed. They have such a substantial cushion for that top overall wild card spot. So how about the team to earn the National League 6th seed? That would be the third and final. The D-backs at plus 165, the Braves at plus 190, and the Mets at a plus 200 number. I think the FanDuel Sportsbook has been hesitant to move the Atlanta Braves fully out of that postseason picture in the wild card bubble because of where the Braves were starting off this season. The second best price and just ever so slightly behind the LA Dodgers to win the National League, not to be one of the top teams, but to win the pennant.
Yep.
And despite the injury, the Braves really have flirted with one of those best prices. Here are the National League pennant prices as of this moment. Joe, if you have trust in Milwaukee, the Brew Crew at an 11-1 price. They'll have home field advantage at least in the wild card round if they can't catch the Dodgers or the Phils to earn that opening round bye. There is some value. The Mets, $4 behind the Braves. I don't disagree, or I don't agree with the price. Now to the American League next.
Anyone that's been to a sporting event, the atmosphere before a game, I think Game Time Decisions has that same exact atmosphere. This is our arena. This is what we do. There is going to be an energy to Game Time Decisions that you will feel night in and night out. The excitement you get when you lock your bets in, when you're figuring out what you want to do, we can zone in on the biggest games each night. I want this to be the place that people come to before the games start so they feel as ready as possible to lock in their cards. We are going to hit every single one of those markets that you need to know about. We're going to go through every single thing, and I've got a great team behind me that's going to help me get the job done. There is not going to be a better place, I promise you, than Game Time Decisions to get that new information, react to it, and be able to then bet accordingly. We will have everything at our disposal, and we will use that to our advantage. I'm Kevin Walsh. Tune into Game Time Decisions from 6 to 8 p.m. Eastern on SportsGrid.
It's a new era in CFB to start off this year, put on full display.
My take on this game is simple. I know some people will be upset about it. Good riddance to the Pac-12.
Can you do it in terms of the week to week to week?
I don't see a pathway for this team to miss the college football playoff.
We want to make sure you have those best bets in the entirety of our betting cards. That was thinking! But he had that program was already going there!
Only on SportsGrid.
The sharpest football contest show in the land, the Las Vegas Football Contest Show, focuses on Circa Sports Million, Circa Survivor, and the Westgate Super Contest, handicapping the games and releasing our contest picks every week of the season. With two former Super Contest winners, Brady Cannon and James Salinas, a former NFL player, Mike Pritchard, and over $1 million in contest prize money won combined, the Las Vegas Football Contest Show will have you prepared this season like none other.
From the NL to the American League in the playoff picture on that side of the equation in Major League Baseball. really the stories have been down the home stretch, the race for the American League East. The Yankees have now established a pretty substantial cushion in that division, but thus the race for the AL East has also been the race for the top spot in the number one overall seed in the American League alongside the Cleveland Guardians. So the Yanks 87-63, now a 3-game lead over Baltimore in the division. The Guardians yesterday coming from behind to take the opening game of their midweek set against divisional foe, the Minnesota Twins. We'll talk about Minnesota on a slide here as of late. The Guardians 87-64. Joe, just a half game behind New York. It will be a pretty contested race over these final 2 weeks for what would be home field advantage the entirety of the way to the pennant in the AL.
Yeah, and ironically enough, Ben, the one team that we don't have to worry about getting that number one seed is Houston. I don't think any of us believe that that's even a possibility. The fact that they're still just 4 games up on Seattle is kind of laughable as well. But, you know, you and I have talked about that division being the Astros are winning it despite of themselves there. But the Yankees and Guardians, I think it's going to come right down to the last couple of games, Ben. It would not shock me if the last game or two here in the regular season will determine who gets that number one seed.
So the Guardians now a 5-game lead in the American League Central. Again, there are 2 division prices still available to bet on the FanDuel Sportsbook. The Yanks minus 750 with the 3-game advantage to win the American League East. With the 5-game lead in the AL Central, Cleveland is minus 6,000. Again, the Guardians rallying yesterday against Minnesota to win the opener of that set 4-3. The Tigers knocking off Kansas City in Kauffman 7-6. In terms of that American League West, the Astros still a 4-game lead despite Seattle winning 3 consecutive games. The Astros did drop their opener yesterday out in San Diego against the Padres, but the odds makers not putting that one up on the board. We know, Joe, for a very long time that whoever does come up just slightly short in the American League East would be that top wild card team in the American League. And despite the O's trailing the Yankees by 3 games, they're 5 games up over the Twins for that top spot. They're still 2.5 in front of KC, who has the second best spot. KC at this moment, again, losing yesterday to Detroit, still a 2.5-game cushion over Minnesota. The Twins, Joe Ranieri, just a 1.5-game lead. Now with 12 games remaining in this regular season, over the Tigers. Do not sleep on Detroit. The Tigers a 7-6 victory yesterday in Kansas City. The Tigers have been one of the best teams in baseball since the end of August. In those final few weeks of August, does Detroit have life to make an American League playoff run?
And they've been, since July, one of the best pitching staffs in all of Major League Baseball, which is really what catapulted them to even make a run at this. So, I mean, when you look at it, no, everyone was laughing at Detroit a month ago. If we would have told you we were in this spot, Ben, people would have thought we were crazy. But no, we're not crazy. And a lot of this has to do with the fact that the Twins, to your point, have fallen off a cliff. But you know, the Twins have been, heckle and hide all year long, Ben. Which version are you going to get? We've seen the one that strikes out a ton and the bullpen melts. We've seen the one that will score 15 runs on you and you don't have a prayer. That's the problem with Minnesota. They have not been consistent. Detroit has, and Detroit, in all likelihood, could very well catch them in these final 12 games. It would not shock me.
So, Ranieri, the Twins did not play on August 22nd. The reason I bring up that date is because the Tigers did. We'll talk about Detroit in just a moment. But they lost to St. Louis on August 23rd. So on August 21st, they were 15 games, was Minnesota, above 500, 71 and 56. From that point, they are 8-15. They have dropped 7 of their last 10 games. Now, August 22nd, Detroit was 4 games below 500, 62 and 66. From that point, they are 16 and 7. Detroit is on fire. The Tigers have clawed their way back. And, Joe, although we do not believe the American League West to be a competitive race because Seattle is playing better baseball, they've won 3 in a row. They're only 2 back of Minnesota as well in the American League wild card chase. Here are the pennant odds right now in the American League. The The Yankees a substantial cushion at 2-1. The Astros and the O's tied for the second best price at plus 360. So that will do it for a little MLB. We'll talk NFL futures after week 2 next.
Anyone that's been to a sporting event, the atmosphere before a game, I think Game Time Decisions has that same exact atmosphere. This is our arena. This is what we do. There is going to be an energy to Game Time Decisions that you will feel night in and night out. The excitement you get when you lock your bets in, when you're figuring out what you want to do, we can zone in on the biggest games each night. I want this to be the place that people come to before the games start so they feel as ready as possible to lock in their cards. We are going to hit every single one of those markets that you need to know about. We're going to go through every single thing, and I've got a great team behind me that's going to help me get the job done. There is not going to be a better place, I promise you, than Game Time Decisions to get that new information, react to it, and be able to then bet accordingly. We will have everything at our disposal, and we will use that to our advantage. I'm Kevin Walsh. Tune into Game Time Decisions from 6 to 8 p.m. Eastern on SportsGrid.
It's a new era in CFB to start off this year, put on full display.
My take on this game is simple. I know some people will be upset about it. Good riddance to the Pac-12.
Can you do it in terms of the week to week to week?
I don't see a pathway for this team to miss the college football playoff.
We want to make sure you have those best bets in the entirety of our betting cards. That was thinking! But he had that program was already going there!
Only on SportsGrid.
The sharpest football contest show in the land, the Las Vegas Football Contest Show, focuses on Circa Sports Million, Circa Survivor, and the Westgate Super Contest, handicapping the games and releasing our contest picks every week of the season. With two former Super Contest winners, Brady Cannon and James Salinas, a former NFL player, Mike Pritchard, and over $1 million in contest prize money won combined, the Las Vegas Football Contest Show will have you prepared this season like none other.
So we're 2 weeks into this 2024 National Football League regular season. Of course, we have reactions. Of course, we have changed our evaluation in some of the spots for teams around the NFL. But we don't want to overreact, right? We want to be based in what we do here. So we look at the odds and see where the markets have adapted after 2 weeks. The Chiefs remain the short favorites to win Super Bowl 59 as they are off to a perfect and undefeated start, 2-0. As Donnie coined yesterday, Joe, here on the early line, they're 2-0 by a toe in both. Isaiah Likely's being a little bit too far out of the end zone in week number 1 in the season debut, in the toe of Harrison Butker, delivering the 51-yard field goal and game winner for KC because of a pass interference call against Cincinnati on Sunday, plus 490 for the Chiefs. But the story throughout much of the offseason, preseason, training camp, even early in week number 1, was San Francisco being right there neck and neck with Kansas City. In fact, at points in the offseason, San Francisco was the favorite, despite losing to Kansas City in Las Vegas, despite dropping 2 of the previous 5 Super Bowls to KC in the last half decade. Now the San Francisco 49ers back by over $1.50 at plus 650. They're 1-1. They got upset in Minneapolis last week. But I think the reason why we're seeing some negative regression in the market movement for the 49ers, Joe, the injuries to Christian McCaffrey already on the IR, and Deebo Samuel might be joining him, at least missing a few weeks with the calf injury.
Yeah, well, and you can't lose to Sam Darnold, can you? Because that's exactly what you did. And that's a problem here. So, the problem, Ben, that people are going to have is the recency bias when it comes to this stuff. I can assure you that nothing we see in September in all likelihood is going to resemble any of these teams come November. Ben, we see it each and every year. So I wouldn't put a whole lot of stock into anything we're seeing here. But I'll tell you this, and I'll point to the Bills, who's hovering around that 9-1, 10-1 mark here. If that Bills team can be more than just Josh Allen, then I do think that from what I've seen the first couple of weeks from them, it's a different feel for this Bills squad, a team that I've bet on a lot over the last couple of years. If they can be more than just the Josh Allen show, and the same problem I have with Baltimore, I think it's going, unfortunately for them, I think their only option is the Lamar Jackson show, and I think that's a recipe for disaster. But I think if some of these guys step up offensively for Buffalo, they are a real contender this year, and nobody seems to be talking about them like we have in years past.
Now the third best price to win Super Bowl 59 at plus 950. That is notable movement for the Buffalo Bills, the team that entered the season with the third best price to win a Super Bowl championship. That's the Baltimore Ravens. They were 11-1, third best price, the shortest number that was in 4 digits behind Kansas City and San Francisco. That number has moved back by $3. They're winless, 0-2. More damning last week, not being able to close it out, up by double digits, 10 points early in the fourth quarter against the Las Vegas Raiders as an 8.5-point favorite. It was the largest of week 2. Then their loss on the road in Arrowhead to the Chiefs, week number 1. The Texans were a team, Joe, that entered this year with optimism, 10-1. Now the price on Houston. It was expected that Houston could contend for another AFC South championship, for a conference crown in the AFC. And so far, the Texans are 2-0. They technically haven't covered yet. They won by 2 on the road as a 3.5-point favorite in Indianapolis, week number 1. Lost out on a cover by the hook, depending on where you got the line, for Sunday Night Football against Chicago just 2 days ago. But the Texans have been solid once again. Defense looked really good against the Bears, and C.J. Stroud continues to do C.J. Stroud things. He has thrown for more than 230 in both of the first 2 games this year for Houston. 3 touchdowns, 0 interceptions. The guy does not put the football in harm's way. He does not turn the football over. That's a quarterback I want leading a team with postseason promise.
Right. But also at the same time, I think beating the Colts and the Bears, I wouldn't be booking my tickets to the Super Bowl just yet because defensively, this team has not been challenged yet. So I need to see a little bit more from the defense. Listen, I believe in Stroud. I think he's got the weapons. I'm good to go there. But if we're going to take the Texans seriously, it's got to be because the defense shows up on the road against better offenses. We'll see what that turns into.
Yeah, we will, because they gave up 27 to Indianapolis and Anthony Richardson in week number 1 in a game that featured 28 combined points and 5 consecutive touchdown drives. At the end of the third quarter through the fourth, 28 combined points in that fourth and final quarter. Let's keep diving through some of these prices here, Joe. In terms of the Super Bowl 59 odds, Detroit upset by Tampa on Sunday in the playoff rematch. 5th best number at 12-1. The Eagles upset last night. The Falcons coming from behind in the final 90 seconds, really in 65 seconds, to steal a victory in Philadelphia. Both teams 12-1, tied for the 5th best number. We talked about the Ravens. The Bengals' price to win a Super Bowl actually grew $1 shorter after the loss to Kansas City on Sunday, because I think Cincy proved they were a little bit better, and they've started 0-2 now, 3 consecutive years. It's a large hole to draw yourself out of. Can the Bengals do it once again, Joe? At least in the last 2 years, 2022 and 2023, they went on to win 4 of their next 5 games after the winless start.
I mean, Ben, going back, it's kind of ridiculous. They've lost 7 straight games in weeks 1 and 2 here now under Zach Taylor. At some point, you got to stop digging yourself a hole here. And, they eventually figure it out. We know that. But if you keep playing with fire, Ben, what happens if you miss the playoffs again this year? I think hot seat very much alive and well here for Zach Taylor and the Bengals here. If you don't turn this thing around and quickly, quite honestly, with a healthy Joe Burrow, healthier than he has been, Ben, in a while, then losing and starting 0-2 again is just to me, it's unfathomable. I think there's an issue in Cincinnati, and his seat is going to get really hot really quick.
No excuse for it, Joe. We can make sense of the Bengals losing, albeit in the fashion they did, with a bad pass interference call. It was the correct call. It was a critical spot, and that's what sucks for Dejon Anthony, the secondary member for Cincy, who was flagged on that 4th and 16 play. They should have won that game, but they absolutely should have won week number 1 as more than a touchdown favorite at home against the Patriots, who are now 1-0-1 against the spread. That's the inexcusable loss to start 0-2. I believe I heard on Monday Night Countdown yesterday on the ESPN broadcast, Scott Van Pelt saying that only 2 teams out of the last 41 that have started winless 0-2 have made it to the postseason. The Bengals included in 2022. They won 4 of their next 5. They lost a game. Then they won 8 straight, I think, to end out the regular season. 10 straight to play in that AFC Championship game that year in Kansas City once again. But again, it's a very steep hill to climb when you start 0-2. Joe, I do want to talk about some teams not listed on this board. Cowboys 20-1, Jets 22-1. We talked about them far enough. Conference movement in the NFC. The Packers moved back because of the injuries to Jordan Love. But how about the teams out of the NFC South? The Saints up from a 40-1 price to 13-1 now in the conference. And if we're going to talk about New Orleans, we need to talk about Tampa as well. The Buccaneers also now a 16-1 price to win the NFC as well. You put in more stock into the Saints and the Bucs, the 2 probably most surprising and impressive teams to begin this season.
Well, I mean, you can dismiss, I guess, putting up 47 points against Carolina, right? But how do you dismiss what they just did on the road against the Cowboys, man, and dropping 44 points?
Yeah.
Clint Kubiak has got them believing offensively, and they are executing at a high level. They are going to be fun to watch.
Yeah, they certainly are going to be very fun to watch. It's the best offense in the NFL. We'll talk individual races with the MVP and some divisional races next.
Anyone that's been to a sporting event, the atmosphere before a game, I think Game Time Decisions has that same exact atmosphere. This is our arena. This is what we do. There is going to be an energy to Game Time Decisions that you will feel night in and night out. The excitement you get when you lock your bets in, when you're figuring out what you want to do, we can zone in on the biggest games each night. I want this to be the place that people come to before the games start so they feel as ready as possible to lock in their cards. We are going to hit every single one of those markets that you need to know about. We're going to go through every single thing, and I've got a great team behind me that's going to help me get the job done. There is not going to be a better place, I promise you, than Game Time Decisions to get that new information, react to it, and be able to then bet accordingly. We will have everything at our disposal, and we will use that to our advantage. I'm Kevin Walsh. Tune into Game Time Decisions from 6 to 8 p.m. Eastern on SportsGrid.
It's a new era in CFB to start off this year, put on full display.
My take on this game is simple. I know some people will be upset about it. Good riddance to the Pac-12.
Can you do it in terms of the week to week to week?
I don't see a pathway for this team to miss the college football playoffs.
We want to make sure you have those best bets in the entirety of our betting cards. That was thinking! But he had that program was already going there!
Only on SportsGrid.
The sharpest football contest show in the land, the Las Vegas Football Contest Show, focuses on Circa Sports Million, Circa Survivor, and the Westgate Super Contest, handicapping the games and releasing our contest picks every week of the season. With 2 former Super Contest winners, Brady Cannon and James Salinas, a former NFL player, Mike Pritchard, and over $1 million in contest prize money won combined, the Las Vegas Football Contest Show will have you prepared this season like none other.
The individual race for the hardware, the NFL MVP odds updated after week number 2. Like, come on, man. Look at the odds right now, Ranieri. Just don't even look at our faces. Put the odds up on the board. Plus 260 for Patrick Mahomes. Sure, he threw for 290 in the season opener against Baltimore. 1 touchdown, 1 interception, and a costly one. That he threw for $155 against the Bengals with 2 tuds and 2 INTs on Sunday. Listen, Patrick Mahomes, who has 2 MVP awards, most recently in 2022. You have voter fatigue working against the guy that has always been at the top of these odds. For a team that we're kind of fatigued by trying to win a Super Bowl, there's no reason Mahomes should be nearly half the price of everybody else in the National Football League at plus 260 following 2 weeks. He hasn't even been all that statistically great by his own ridiculous standards or even by pretty average standards of an MVP contender in the National Football League.
Right. But, the book also knows that everybody is going to paint him like they painted the Brady brush, right? Like, ultimately, they expect Mahomes to be there in the end and get every vote, all the headlines, everything goes his way. It's all, we said we had to do it. How long now with Brady? We had to go 20 years having to deal with this same kind of crap with Brady. And now we just said, well, congratulations. We got another decade and a half of Patrick Mahomes. Get used to it. Always going to be overvalued in any futures market when it comes to player awards. We know this, unfortunately, Ben.
Ranieri, do you know who the 4 quarterbacks are that have thrown for 4 more touchdowns this season? Because I'll tell you, if we're going to use those stats as a way to consider MVP contenders, Derek Carr and Baker Mayfield, each 5 touchdown tosses. Woo! Sam Darnold and Kyler Murray, each 4 touchdown tosses. Are they legitimate MVP contenders following only 2 weeks?
Well, if Derek Carr and the Saints, who we both believe in Clint Kubiak and what this offense is doing because of the weapons that they have, if they're going to average 40-some-odd points, 35 or more points a game, then he's very much in the conversation for, because they don't do that without Derek Carr. This isn't the Alvin Kamara show rushing the ball. That's a passing offense and a real one at that, Ben.
So when you look at these awards, of course, you will see on the list that we display only quarterbacks. That makes sense. The last running back, or non-quarterback, I should say, to win the NFL MVP award was Adrian Peterson back in 2012. That is now well over a decade ago. That is 12 winners of the award, all playing quarterbacks since AD, I guess, because we called him all day. And even prior to that, we saw, as I'm looking at it now, 5 consecutive quarterbacks to win the award before Adrian Peterson claimed the hardware in 2012. That's a lot of quarterbacks. That's a lot. That's 16 of the last 17 having won the MVP award. Joe, is there a potential with Saquon Barkley off to a good start despite the drop yesterday to end out the game for Philadelphia? In much the same consideration we gave to Christian McCaffrey a year ago, that we might see a non-quarterback win this award in 2024.
No, because Hurts is going to steal far too many votes in that spot there. So they'll siphon it off one another. But let's we've got 2 games out of Saquon. Let's see if we can keep him healthy for 6 in a row first. Let's do that.
Yeah, the reigning NFL MVP, Lamar Jackson, at 28-1, tied for that 9th best price, along with Kyler Murray, rounding out this board. Jared Goff has actually fallen off from where these odds were. He's at 35-1 right now. You mentioned Derek Carr, 33-1. Kirk Cousins, 35-1 as well. Baker Mayfield at 30-1, actually a shorter price than both of those other quarterbacks from the NFC South. Baker's been great. Derek Carr's been great. New Orleans, the best scoring offense in the National Football League, 91 points. The Cardinals averaging 34.5 points per game, 28 in the opener, 41 in week 2 against the Rams. That's 69. But the Saints, who have scored 91 points, no other team even has 70 or more at this juncture following 2 weeks. So a substantial advantage for the Saints in terms of scoring output. If you're the quarterback of the best scoring offense, that is often a good place to be. We have often seen Josh Allen, Joe Ranieri, at the top of these MVP markets for many, many a year. He now has the second best price at 5-1 alongside C.J. Stroud. Those are the three quarterbacks, all with 3 digits. You got to go all the way to Jalen Hurts at a 12-1 number to get to that fourth best price. So it really looks like a 3-quarterback race as of this moment. You mentioned Buffalo's price to win a Super Bowl and how appealing it is. Josh Allen remains the constant in Western New York for a reshuffled roster this year for Buffalo. And I think the biggest thing, Joe, for Josh Allen is being less turnover prone. That has been his kryptonite. That has been the fair criticism of his play the last few years when Buffalo was expected not to win a division, not to win 12 games, but to actually get to an AFC championship and play for a Lombardi trophy. Is this the year that Josh Allen cleans it up and wins an MVP award?
I do think those are correlated, aren't they, though, Ben? Right? If you're really considering Buffalo to be a Super Bowl contender, then that only happens because Josh Allen plays and takes that next step, right? And you mentioned the turnovers. So far, so good. He's also rushing the ball out of his mind. He could set a lot of records this year. Again, they can't afford just to be the Josh Allen show, but if you like them at this point to actually represent the AFC in the championship with a possibility to win it, how in the world are you not backing him to be the MVP? Those things go hand in hand because eventually he's got to go through you-know-who. So,
That is true. And that's also been the Bills' kryptonite. 3 of the last 4 years being bounced from the playoffs by Kansas City. The last 3 years, an exit in the division round. He did fumble it once, and it was recovered by the Cardinals in week 1. So he's got 1 fumble, 1 turnover, 0 interceptions to 3 touchdowns through the air, 2 more rushing scores. He had 4 total TDs to bring Buffalo all the way back week number 1 over Arizona. Josh Allen has the 3rd best passer rating currently in the National Football League. Only Derek Carr and Baker Mayfield better. Kyler Murray at a 122.9, that 4th best passer rating as well. Plenty more in store here on the early line for you. Some early lines on the early line next.
Anyone that's been to a sporting event, the atmosphere before a game, I think Game Time Decisions has that same exact atmosphere. This is our arena. This is what we do. There is going to be an energy to Game Time Decisions that you will feel night in and night out. The excitement you get when you lock your bets in, when you're figuring out what you want to do, we can zone in on the biggest games each night. I want this to be the place that people come to before the game starts so they feel as ready as possible to lock in their cards. We are going to hit every single one of those markets that you need to know about. We're going to go through every single thing, and I've got a great team behind me that's going to help me get the job done. There is not going to be a better place, I promise you, than Game Time Decisions to get that new information, react to it, and be able to then bet accordingly. We will have everything at our disposal, and we will use that to our advantage. I'm Kevin Walsh. Tune into Game Time Decisions from 6 to 8 p.m. Eastern on SportsGrid.
It's a new era in CFB to start off this year, put on full display.
My take on this game is simple. I know some people will be upset about it. Good riddance to the Pac-12.
Can you do it in terms of a week to week to week?
I don't see a pathway for this team to miss the college football playoff.
We want to make sure you have those best bets in the entirety of our betting cards. That was thinking! But he had that program was already going there!
Only on SportsGrid.
The sharpest football contest show in the land, the Las Vegas Football Contest Show, focuses on Circa Sports Million, Circa Survivor, and the Westgate Super Contest, handicapping the games and releasing our contest picks every week of the season. With 2 former Super Contest winners, Brady Cannon and James Salinas, a former NFL player, Mike Pritchard, and over $1 million in contest prize money won combined, the Las Vegas Football Contest Show will have you prepared this season like none other.
What's one of the greatest things about football season that even as we recap the conclusion of 1 week with a Monday Night Football reaction, set the stage for where the market has moved, we offer up some thoughts, blah, blah, blah. When are we going to get to game breakdowns? We're only 2 days away from football. Thursday night, short week inside MetLife Stadium for Aaron Rodgers and the New York Jets as they host the Patriots, our second consecutive divisional duel on a short week Thursday night football game. On paper, you might be saying to yourselves, all right, 37.5 is the total. The Jets are a near touchdown favorite at home. This game's going to be a clunker like we often see on short week Thursday night football games. I am not so sure, Joe Ranieri. We've got the New England Patriots who have been far more competitive than I, you, or maybe anybody else in their right mind would have said they were going to be early this season. They went outright as a 7.5-point underdog week number 1 in Cincinnati. They keep it real close in the home debut in Foxborough on Sunday afternoon against Seattle. Seahawks had to take the game to overtime. They kicked a field goal in that extra session, but New England did push as a 3-point closing underdog. That line was 4.5 earlier in the week, 3 and a hook even early on Sunday morning. New England 1-0-1 against the spread by the final tracker. The Jets, 1-1 against the spread, covering as a 3.5-point road favorite in Nashville on Sunday. But that game was closer than I think a lot of people expected it to be. So with all that said, Joe, what's the early handicap here on the early line for Thursday night football in just over 50 hours' time?
The problem is, looking at the injury report yesterday, there isn't a starting offensive lineman or backup offensive lineman that isn't banged up. They were dropping like flies in that Seattle game. And that's an issue, because if you are going to have a bunch of backup offensive linemen on a short week for New England with Jacoby Brissett against that Jets rush and Quinnen Williams and company, we may not get the kind of output that we have seen here in the first couple of weeks from the New England Patriots. But I think a lot of that had to do with Seattle blowing a couple of big defensive possessions there in that game, which gave New England extra points they probably shouldn't have had. Otherwise, that game definitely stays under. The thing that I would be concerned with is that Geno Smith, Jackson Smith, and of course Metcalf, that's well over 300 yards in the air. They torched that secondary of the New England Patriots. I would imagine this is probably the Garrett Wilson coming out game with Aaron Rodgers. It feels like that is very much a possibility here. But the Jets have been an under machine at home over the last couple of seasons. But I don't even know if you can count that. New England's offensive line injuries concern me about anything with an over. Maybe a Jets team total over is better way to look at it.
Probably concerning not only keeping Jacoby Brissett upright and what that could mean just overall offensively for the Patriots, but also on the ground. Antonio Gibson, 11 carries for 96 yards against Seattle, a lot of that coming on a long 45-yard run. But, Joe, one of my favorite bets of the weekend was over 16.5 rush attempts for Ramondre Stevenson, knowing that's how New England is going to incorporate their offense. He had 21 carries for 81 yards and a tud against Seattle. They had 185 yards as a team against the Seahawks. If the offensive line is banged up against a Jets defensive front that looked a lot better in the second half against the Titans, they struggled early against Tennessee. Of course, they gave up 32. Probably could have been more than that against San Francisco week number 1. That's an area of concern for a Patriots team that even in the outright win in Cincinnati only scored 16 points. That's the concern for New England. Hunter Henry, huge for the Patriots, by the way, on Sunday. 8 grabs, 12 targets, 109 of the 149 yards Brissett threw for. But Joe's right. Geno Smith, 327 yards in 4 touchdowns, just a single touchdown, 7.4 yards per carry against New England on Sunday. Garrett Wilson, welcome to the show on Thursday night. Aaron Rodgers has not been tasked with doing all that much, Joe. I think this will be a time, even on a short week, for the offense to open it up for Gang Green.
Yeah, I would expect that big play big play Aaron Rodgers is going to be available in this game finally. But again, third game in 10 days, Ben? This is interesting.
Yep, it is. Very interesting scheduling logistics for New York to start the year. Monday night in Santa Clara, short week on the road in Nashville, home opener, but short week with a 40-year-old quarterback. Hour 3 up next.